Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. We've got crazy news in the GPU market in February 2023. Scalpers are absolutely getting wrecked in the GPU space right now, and we'll take a look at the impending launch of the RTX 4070. What do we think the price is going to be? What do we think the performance is going to be? And should you be waiting for it? Of course, we'll also take a look at all the current pricing for GPUs, both used and new, and tell you what the best GPU for the money is for 1440p, 1080p, and 4K. Remember, if you get value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, and of course subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or Pro OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom, you have a fully licensed Windows 10 for a crazy low price, which can be upgraded for free to Windows 11. Use the links in the video description below. Let's jump into brand new GPU pricing. We'll start off on the AMD side because there's some big news over there, which is RIP Scalpers. That's right, that's going to be a theme of this video. Goodbye Scalpers. The RX 7900 XTX now available at retail, $1,069, down about 10%, 9% from its scalper price basically. And not only is there one model available, there's several models suddenly available. We've got the ASRock Phantom Gaming, $1,069. Now note that these are not going to be the reference models at $999. These are all going to be aftermarket ones, which have generally better coolers on them. So they're going to run about a $50 to $150 price premium over the top of that. And we've got the MSI one for $1099. We can back order right now the ASRock Tai Chi. They've got the Sapphire Pulse in stock as well. So several models. That's great news. You no longer have to go to eBay or buy from some sketchy essentially scalper on Amazon to get these GPUs. If you want one right now, they are available. No real change for the RX 7900 XT, $879 last month, $879 still this month. I do expect we will see some price cuts on that card coming up, just can't really tell when. Then coming down, no real change to the RX 6950 XT. You can still get them for $699 over at Newegg right now. That's the ASRock OC. For a little bit more, there's an XFX Speedster model as well for $729. Got some nice price cuts on the RX 6800 XT, and this price actually at $599, down 8% from last month, $649. Doesn't even really reflect what you can actually buy the card for right now. What do I mean by that? Well, check this out. So you can actually back order a couple of different models, including the Sapphire Pulse, for as little as $539. Now, during Black Friday, this card was selling for $515, pretty close to Black Friday pricing. I don't typically include back order pricing in my overall pricing. The pricing has to be what's absolutely available to ship right now. That being said, if you are a bargain hunter and you're looking for this card, it is out there. The cheapest one right now is $599. Again, down $50 from last month. That's a good sign, I think. It also shows that there is some of this higher end stock from AMD Radeon at the 6800 XT to continue to sell. Radeon RX 6800, a little cheaper at $479, 2% down from last month. And then essentially the rest of the stack is unchanged. We got the 6750, 6700 XTs at $359, it's $259 for the 6650 XTs or 6600 XTs, and then the 6600 continues to be $229. So not really any change at the lower end. One thing I will note at the lower end is I'm seeing fewer cards than I used to see, because you can see there's only a couple models here available of the 6600, not the most favorable pricing either. I'm beginning to wonder if we're getting to the end of this stack and if that would portend AMD introducing lower end cards, even though they haven't introduced kind of mid-range or even high-end GPUs other than the ultra high-end nosebleed stuff yet. Before we jump into the NVIDIA, let's quickly visit on the Intel GPUs. A750 had a nice little price cut, $249. And if you missed this, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the news section, Intel introduced a new driver that had massive improvements in a lot of games that Intel GPUs were struggling in due to primarily driver issues, possibly hardware issues. That being said, it looks like the performance has massively improved, but right now, $249. Unfortunately, in February, the A770 seems to have gone up in price. I can only find one for $319 right now, which is up $15 from last month. Again, not a lot of performance difference between the two. Jumping over to the NVIDIA GPUs, and look at that, the RTX 4090, in keeping with our theme of ripped scalpers, is now available for $1699, down 15%. Jason, what happened? Did suddenly all the scalpers drop their prices? No, it's now available at retail. Look at that. And there's a number of models that are actually available at retail. Now, not all of them have great pricing, and obviously the ASUS Strix model is always going to command a huge price premium, but look at that, $1699. Yes, $1599 is the MSRP. These are not Founders Editions cards. These are aftermarket cards. You expect a 10 to 15% kind of markup on those, especially when the card is new and in huge demand like this. But you can buy them now from a reputable retailer. That means probably the end of all those scalper listings on eBay. And with the end of 7900 XTX and 4090 scalping, probably the end of GPU scalpers as we've known it since what, 2020, late 2020, early 2021? That's absolutely insane. And I think it's actually something to celebrate. Even if you don't care about the RTX 4090 or any of these high-end GPUs, getting scalpers out of the market is the best thing that can happen for us as we try and return to something more normalized pricing we used to see. Then we've got the RTX 4080. This is kind of just standard price variation, $1,229 right now. It's actually just sold out as I was filming this. $1,229 is now back ordered. It's now $1,239. It's $10 more, but basically kind of unchanged from last month. The lowest end 4080s continue to sell pretty well. Anything over the MSRP though, not selling well at all. 4070 Ti, kind of the same thing. MSRP cards continue to sell out, probably because they're not making as many of them. And anything even a little bit over that MSRP is definitely not selling. We've got the $819 PNY one, MSI Ventus for $829, and you can just see all the various cards they've got in here. It's tons and tons and tons. I've actually removed the 3090s, 3080s, 3080 Ti, 3090 Ti because they're completely out of stock. I believe they're completely gone. We will go through used pricing. It's very interesting. The used pricing on those cards has dropped dramatically with the introduction of the RTX 4070 Ti. We'll go through that later in the video. But for right now, let's talk about the 3070 and 3070 Ti. Look at that, $544. And if we actually look at the GPUs that are available, mostly it's Zotac. There is a Gigabyte here for slightly cheaper for $544, but then they get pretty expensive pretty quickly. They go up to about $600. I believe we may be seeing the end of the 3070 stock as well, which is probably why NVIDIA is dropping hints that it's about to launch the RTX 4070, which I think is really exciting for the market and will help shift prices. But if you wanted a 3070, it looks like the time probably was a month or two ago, and slim pickings now. And then honestly, the rest of the market is unchanged. 3060 Ti, same price. 3060, same price. 3050s, 2060, 1660 Supers, just slight variations, basically month-to-month kind of variations. And honestly, I think what we're seeing here, because we continue to see the AMD GPUs sell through, they are significantly better values at every price point from that 3070 all the way down. And these cards are kind of languishing, and that probably means NVIDIA is not going to launch their replacements like the 4060 and 4050 anytime soon, although they are shipping them in laptops right now. We probably won't see the desktop versions of them. Let's jump into the GPU news. We're going to start with the end of scalping in the GPU market before we get to the RTX 4070 launch. It seems like it is impending because scalping has been a fixture of the GPU market, inflating the prices that you're paying on those GPUs, even if you're not buying a high-end GPU, all across the market since the launch of the RTX 3000 series back in September, November of 2020. I don't even remember. It's been that long. And what we're looking at here is the RTX 4090. As you can see, these are sales in the last 30 days over eBay. They are plummeting dramatically. Why are they plummeting for about, 50 or so a day down to about 20 a day? That's less than half. Well, because it's actually available in stock. Now look, some models are not available in stock. People who want the Strix model, for instance, are willing to spend all kinds of different money on it. That's not currently available in stock right now. So yes, that will continue to get sold on eBay. But if you want a vanilla 4090, you can now buy one at retail, at least in the United States. Similarly, this is the 7900 XTX scalping that went on. You can see, while the numbers were much lower over the last 30 days, also decreasing volumes now that, especially in the last couple of days, that has become available at retail. You can see it's almost completely crashed here within the last couple of days. I do want to highlight something I think is pervasive in the GPU market. And let's just take a look at the RTX 4090 launch. I've gone back all the way since the beginning of the launch. Look at how many models a lot of these scalpers were able to get. These are clearly people who have inside contacts who are able to divert a large number of GPUs directly into the scalper channel. So for instance, look at this, 91 Founders Editions sold at an average price of almost $2,300. That is totally insane. How did somebody get 91? You say, oh, Jason, maybe it's a retailer, right? Oh, let's take a look. Does that look like a retailing photo to you? Struggle Shop Inc? No, it doesn't. This looks like a scalper. That's someone's fireplace, for crying out loud. Hey, what about the Strix ones? 42 models of the Strix ones. Do retail shops put a sticky on it like that that says Techie Store or Sortie or whatever that says? No, that's totally insane. How is it that people were able to get these quantities of RTX 4090s for scalping and ordinary people couldn't even get one of these things? I just want to highlight that. I think there has to be some serious changes and serious hard look at how the logistics of these work out in future launches. Let's talk about the impending launch of the RTX 4070. That's right, video cards got hold of what they're saying right now is a leaked embargo. So the embargo basically is a document that says when it's going to come out, and you can't say anything about it until this certain date. And it does include the launch date of the 4070 on it, which they're saying is April of 2023. Now, if we just take that at face value, again, that's a leak, that's a rumor, everyone's reporting on that, and we take a look at the leaked specs of the RTX 4070. The 4070 Ti, obviously the 4080 12GB before that, right, it's the same card, 7,680 CUDA cores versus hugely cut down on the RTX 4070, 5,888. If you look at the boost clock is down about 150 megahertz or so, while the memory bandwidth is about the same. It's got quite a bit less power, 200 watts versus 285 watts on the 4070 Ti. Just take a pause here. This doesn't always mean what the actual performance is going to be. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it in terms of the actual gaming performance, including driver optimizations and things of that nature. We definitely expect it to beat what, the 3070 for sure, probably the 3080. So we'll have to see where it slots in versus the 4070 Ti and whatever AMD is going to introduce. And I do expect AMD, once the 4070 is at least announced, AMD will at least put an announcement out there that they're going to announce something on the 7800 XTX and 7800 non-XT. In terms of pricing for the RTX 4070, if we look at the 3070, it's currently, the MSRP, not currently, the MSRP was $499. It never really hit that number, but the 4070 Ti is up there at $799. So there's a big gap where they could drop the 4070 in there. I don't think it's going to be $499 like the 3070, but I think NVIDIA might give itself a little bit of cushion to drop the price on the 4070 Ti later. Do MSRPs really mean anything anymore? Like, the cards just sell for whatever the market will bear at this point. I could see it being MSRP'd pretty easily, anywhere from $599 to $699, somewhere in that universe. And we know for a fact that not even NVIDIA knows what it's going to price its cards at often until the day it announces them, let alone the poor board partners who are just basically informed of the price after the fact. And let's wrap up with big news on the Intel GPU front. Intel might be starting to pull some things out here because we desperately need more competition in the GPU space. And not only do they drop the price of the A750 to $249, we'll see later in our video whether or not that actually makes it into any of our best GPUs for the money in February 2023, but they released a new driver which is said to massively increase performance, especially in older titles that use like DirectX 9 by up to 43%. Some of the numbers that I saw various reviewers test out, almost up to 100% in them. And Gamers Nexus did a really deep dive into some of the launch drivers as well as the current drivers, just showing the performance difference. So for instance, Counter-Strike Go, look at that. I mean, more than 100% uplift between the launch drivers on the bottom there, between the A770 and A750, and the current drivers right now. That's huge. Well, other titles like Final Fantasy IV, they found less of an uplift, more like a 10 FPS uplift, is about 8 or 9%. I think that makes the overall launch of the ARC GPUs it's not a success. They're never going to be a success. It's just not a tremendous failure. And I think it actually shines some light in the future that potentially with Battlemage GPUs, I know 2024, we could start seeing more competition in the GPU space, which is sorely needed. Let's jump over to used GPU prices. And of course, we'll take a look at the best GPUs, both used and new, in just a moment for February 2023. But sticking with used prices, look at the RTX 3000 series. It's coming down again. Remember, these GPUs spiked up in price. Used GPUs spiked up in price during Black Friday, during the holidays, during early January, as the entire GPU market got sold through. People were upgrading PCs, people were building new PCs, and there just wasn't enough volume, either new cards or used cards. So it's refreshing to see all these prices come down, and pay particular attention to the price of the RTX 3080 Ti and the RTX 3090. They have come down well below that $800 price point, really. Why is that, Jason? Why are those prices dropping so fast? Well, a new GPU got introduced called the RTX 4070 Ti. It exists. It has the same performance as the 3090 Ti, VRAM aside, has the same rasterization and better ray tracing performance, and it only costs $799. So you're not going to be able to sell these GPUs at that price point anymore. I can see the 3090 existing at $760, maybe a little bit lower, just because it does have 24 gigs of VRAM versus the 12 gigabytes on the 4070 Ti. But really interesting to note, especially ahead of the RTX 4070 launch, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that 3080 pricing and the 3070 pricing as well. Jumping over to the RDNA 2 graphics cards for AMD, we can see similar story basically. All the GPUs are coming down, but it's the higher end GPUs that are falling kind of the fastest right now. Again, because we've got new graphics cards at about that $800 price point, the 6950 XT can't really survive. You can get one brand new right now for $699. So I expect to see these prices continue to come down and probably come down quite quickly. Taking a look at the AMD GPUs from previous generations, that's RDNA 1 and Polaris, that were great mining cards that miners were just buying up in bulk and paying any amount for. Look at that. The prices are absolutely crumbling right now. Miners are dumping cards. They're not necessarily dumping the RTX 3000 series cards that you want to buy for super cheap, but they are dumping these cards like the RX 5700 XT, the 5600 XT, and the old RX 580s and RX 570s. I do expect these prices to continue to come down as miners finally kind of accept reality and they start dumping probably their oldest cards first. Rounding it out with NVIDIA Pascal and Turing generations, again, these were great mining cards, especially like the 1660 Super, down another 3%, down to $140. The 2060 remains unchanged for about $200, but the 2060 Super coming down. And look at that GTX 1060. Now, I wouldn't buy that over an RX 580, and that's probably what's going on here. 580 still outperforms it. So overall, we see continued declines on these GPUs. Let's jump into our best GPUs for February 2023. Remember, this is used and new. And of course, the way we do this is we take the GPU performance versus an RX 570, we divide it by the best price, either used or new, and we get a price to performance. And then we take a look at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. And this month I have bifurcated the 4K into 4K 60 and 4K High FPS. Remember, if you don't like what I've done, or these are all US prices, you want to put in your own prices, there is a link to this spreadsheet down in the video description. Check it out. You can put your own numbers in here. We've got all the instructions on the side. Let's take a look at the best GPUs under $200 in February 2023. And obviously they're all going to be used at this point. AMD and NVIDIA currently aren't making any. Now, we did have the RX 6600 sneak down into about $189 during Black Friday, during the holiday shopping season. However, it's back up to $229. So if you've got about $100 to spend, I would focus on getting an RX 570, but more likely an RX 580, and find an 8 gigabyte one. There's really no discount for getting the 4 gigabyte one. So grab an 8 gigabyte one while you're at it. If you've got more like $150 to $200, that RX 5700 XT, it's not that old. It's a great GPU capable of 1440p in a lot of titles. It performs between the 6600 and 6600 XT for, $175, and with the 6600 going back up in price, it makes a real value argument. If you absolutely have to have NVIDIA, you're looking at the GeForce GTX 1070 or probably the newer GTX 1660 Super, 1660 Ti for about $130 to $140. Just know it's going to have significantly less performance than that 5700 XT for not that much more money. Jumping over to the best high FPS 1080p gaming, so tons and tons of frames in February 2023. Right now, the Radeon RX 5700 XT, amazing value again, $175. We just went through that. 5600 XT, you could even play a lot of games at super high frame rate 1080p for only about $155. I would probably avoid the 1080 Ti. I think some of the recent testing has shown that NVIDIA drivers have just not kept up for that 10 series the way it has for their 2000 series and their 3000 series, and the way AMD's kept up with some of their older GPUs as well. But if you're looking for brand new, I mean, honestly, the RX 6650 XT is just the way to go at about $259 right now, brand new. You get a warranty with it, and it's got the highest performance of all these cards. Just pretty insane value. For the best 1440p GPUs, February 2023, we've already talked about the RX 5700 XT. absolutely insane value. But what performance level will that get you at 1440p? In most titles, it'll get you anywhere from 60 to 100, depends. Can get a lot more, especially in stuff like CSGO or kind of really lightweight shooter titles where you're going to turn down those details. That being said, you can also pick up the 6650 XT for $259 right now, slightly more performance than the 5700 XT, and it's brand new. So if you're looking to spend about $250 to $300, that's probably your card. But what if you want NVIDIA? That used RTX 3070 and 3070 Ti, if you can pick one up for the average use price that I'm seeing right now for $380, that's actually a really good value. Now, yes, only 8 gigabytes of VRAM. There's some questions about whether or not that's going to be fine going forward. I think for 1440p, probably fine going forward. That being said, the RX 6700 XT, 6750 XT, you can actually pick up cheaper right now for $359. It's brand new, it comes with a warranty. I'm seeing right now that this card is actually outperforming the RTX 3070 in a lot of titles, especially newer ones. Then of course, if we want to push tons and tons of frames, honestly, RX 6800 is a really good new value right now, $479. That being said, this is kind of the general area where we do expect new GPUs to start hitting within probably the next 6 to 9 months. Jumping over to the best 4K GPU, February 2023. This is for about 60 FPS or higher. I have a new category, which is high FPS 4K, which we'll get to in just a moment. We talked about that used RTX 3070, possibly used RTX 3080 value out there. 6800 is capable of that same performance and a lot of titles. 6800 XT, this is now the area where we expect new GPUs to be introduced by both NVIDIA and AMD in the coming months. So kind of puts a question mark on what the real value of these GPUs are. And finishing out with the best 4K GPU, February 2023, 80 plus FPS, ultra settings, kind of all titles right now. I went through, I double checked benchmarks, made sure this list of GPUs would actually hit that. And this part of the market, this segment is really solidified at this point. We've had the introductions of the 4090, the 4080, the 4070 Ti, the 7900 XT, and the 7900 XTX. Unless AMD really wows us with like a 7800 XT or whatever their next GPU is going to be, I kind of expect that this is where we're at. The only difference here is going to be kind of used GPU pricing. If you're open to buying a used GPU at this price point, a lot of people aren't. So look at that. We got the 6950 XT, obviously leads price to performance. That being said, at that $700 price point, I think it's kind of in a little bit of danger when the 7800 XT comes out in terms of being trumped for about the same price. But if we look at like the 4070 Ti in terms of new values, it's a really solid value along with 7900 XT and 7900 XTX. I know they all got slammed. Well, the 4070 Ti and the 7900 XT got slammed, but without any other competition in the marketplace right now, those are kind of the dominant cards. Maybe the 7800 XT is going to make a difference. Maybe the 4070 will make a difference. I don't think so. And then of course we got the 4080, which is just a not good value by any stretch of the imagination. And the 4090 is obviously, it's not good value, but it is the best. So if you want the best of the best, that's the RTX 4090. Otherwise, I think you want to look at a 7900 XTX, 7900 XT, 4070 Ti. The 4080 kind of is in some no man's land right now. Let's play everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, listen, this one's getting really complicated with all the launches out there, with some price reductions, with AMD kind of going radio silent in the first quarter in terms of what their plans are. Here's how I see it. At the high end of the market, let's start there. That's solidified. Everything from the 4090 all the way down to the 4070 Ti, and you got the 7900 XTX and XT in there, as well as the 4080. That part of the market is not moving. I don't see those prices coming down anytime soon, possibly on the 7900 XT. So if you're at the high-end buyer with about, anywhere from $800 up to $1,600 to spend, market set, go buy the card that you feel like is best for you. If you're kind of more at the higher middle end of the market, so we're talking like $500-ish up to $700, I would put a big timeout. I just call big time out on the field here. Let's see what the 4070 brings. Let's see if these rumors are true. We'll know soon enough if NVIDIA is going to announce something in the next couple of weeks. And if they are, AMD will most certainly counter with whatever they've got kind of next up their sleeve. A little curious that we haven't heard from them yet. I suspect that the RDNA 3 has more issues than we know about. So we'll have to see. On the lower end, I just don't know what to tell you. There's no GPUs coming for us anytime soon on the budget end. It just doesn't seem that way. Now, AMD is coming out on mobile, and NVIDIA is coming out on mobile with like the RTX 4050 and the RX 7600M. So why can't we get those cards at desktop? They'd rather you buy up all the RTX 3060s, 3050, 3060 Ti's, 6600, 6650 XTs first, and then they'll sell it when they're good and ready. That's to me why we need more competition from Intel and others in this space. I don't tend to wait for products that have not been announced. The desktop products have not been announced, so I wouldn't wait for them. Just go ahead and buy something. You're probably going to feel much better spending the next 5-6 months gaming and doing something fun with a 6600 XT than waiting, 6 months for some mythical 4060 that'll probably cost way too much money anyway. Remember, if you got value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. If you're looking for even more cool content, check out our recent Boost My Build, the series where we take your PC part picker list, we tear them up, we put them back together and massively increase your performance. Right here, we got some crazy builds for February 2023. Check it out and we'll catch you on the next one.